Hi, everyone, and happy holidays. I am here to give us a couple tips and tricks to use during the holiday times to prevent meltdowns. Now, this could be meltdowns for your children. Maybe it's a meltdown on your end or your partner's end. But these little things, if we take the time to do them ahead of time, we'll set ourselves up for success the best we can when the event comes up. So let's take a look at our screen. So last night we actually had a Friendsgiving and my child did end up melting down a little bit because I did not quite set her up for success the way I should have. We ended up going somewhere where she was tired, where she was already hungry, and there was a lot of stimulation in the environment. And so, thinking back on it, I just think of the handful of things I can do next time when a big event happens again. So let's take a look at the 4 steps to prevent holiday meltdowns. The first, you need to take care of your basic needs. The second is going to be to pack a backpack. The third is to set boundaries. And the fourth is to find a cozy corner. So, what is going on here? Why is our child melting down? Why do they have these extreme highs and lows and then these big emotions surface when we're in these family gatherings or when there's a lot going on? So first, sensory overload. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of sounds, there's a lot of smells, there's a lot of food that they're not sure of. There's just a lot going on. Maybe there's not a lot of physical space, so they feel a little closed in, which can cause anxiety, or maybe, how often do you leave the house feeling a little stressed out or high strung? And then the kids feed off of that, right? I know as we were trying to leave, I probably said like 15 times yesterday, like, we need to go, we need to go, we need to go, get your stuff. And I'm like, it happens to all of us. Even when you have the tools and tricks, it happens. So it's all about being mindful to make sure that you're incorporating them. So, our kids are overloaded sensory wise. They're feeling stress or anxiety. They're feeding off of adults. They're out of their routine. Maybe they didn't sleep last night because they were excited, or maybe, Thanksgiving's middle of the day. So their nap time is messed up, or they woke up super early or went to bed super late the night before. It completely, with children, a half hour makes a really big difference. I mean, 5 minutes makes a big difference, right? So we just need to be aware that this is something that's happening so that we can show up with compassion, with empathy, and be like, I get it. You're tired right now, and I just threw you into a big situation, right? Maybe they're in sugar overload. We just came off of a big sugar holiday to go into another holiday full of food and pies and desserts, and maybe their body's responding to that. Maybe their boundaries are getting pushed. They've said a couple things and they're not being heard or listened to. And so when we feel that way, we tend to react in a big emotion too. And that's our children do it as well. And we're not in our safe space. Maybe we're in somebody else's house, or maybe we're in our own house, but people are in our safe space. And now that's making us feel uncomfortable. So these are just some of the things that are going on when we're in any kind of big event. The holidays just happen to be what's happening right now, but events are happening all throughout the year. So these are things you can take with you no matter what time of the year it is. So let's start at the beginning of taking care of your basic needs. I talk about this all the time, and I am good about it, hopefully about 80% of the time, but I'm human. We're all human, and we forget to do some of these things. So one of the best things you can do is try to get a good night's sleep the night before. If we can take some sleep the night before, we have more energy the next day, we have more focus, we have more patience to be able to handle anything that is going to come our way. Drinking water the morning of is super important, because how often do we get somewhere, get a drink in our hand, and then the next thing you know, all we're doing is drinking something other than water. So if you have water to begin with, or even some water in between drinks throughout the holiday, you'll be able to keep your mind in a better place. You'll be able to show up a little better, and you'll be able to be mindful, patient, all those lovely things all those qualities we like to have with our kids. I suggest doing 10 minutes of personal development in the morning. It gets our head in a really good space. Maybe you have a podcast that you love, it gets you laugh a lot when you hear it. Or maybe you've been struggling with something with your child or with a family member. And if you're listening to something that gives you a little bit of motivation and support and fuel to go into this situation, it helps get you there. So how do children learn and do those things? Through play. I really encourage everybody to make sure before you leave for an event or before people come over to your place, make sure your children have a lot of opportunities. Just dive into play, especially play by themselves. Maybe it's with their favorite toy, maybe it's with something else, because if other kids are coming into their space, they're not going to want to share it, right? They're going to not have time to play with that toy and they have to do something different. So making sure the kids have some quality time to play before the event happens will help them be able to emotionally approach any of the situations coming from a better angle. They won't be as elevated. They will have had some of their needs met as well. And by the way, all of this applies to the kids. Make sure they are sleeping, make sure they're getting some water. Another suggestion is bringing food if you have allergies or sensitivities. Maybe your kid is a super picky eater and you know that they're not going to want to eat whatever is at this Thanksgiving. So bring some snacks. It's okay for them to be eating something different. So having that with them will, or having it with you will help take some of the stress out of the moment of worrying about what you're going to eat and then not eating in case there's something that's not there for you. And we know what happens if we don't eat. We kind of fall off the deep end and get a little hangry, or we don't respond in the ways we want to. And then the last part of taking care of yourself is trying to get outside for a few minutes, go take a walk. This is a really great tool to use if you are in a big family environment and there's a lot going on and you need a minute. Going outside, moving your body, taking some fresh air will help you reset if you need that reset button. Okay, pack a backpack. This is a great tool to use with kids in any situation. When you're leaving the house, when they're going somewhere they don't know, if you're going on a trip, but each kid gets their own backpack. And the backpacks are going to be unique to them. It's going to be full of things that they love. This is a tool for them to use when they're feeling big emotions. Big emotions don't have to be a tantrum, screaming breakdown. They could be maybe they're feeling just really sad, or maybe they're feeling very quiet and they need some alone time, but it's a big emotion still, even though the reaction is not as big, it feels big. And when they have something that is theirs, it allows them to kind of zone in. So this backpack is something that's going to be unique to them. Inside the backpack, and big kids can help you guys pack this too. You can put things like their favorite snacks, a water bottle, books, notebooks, something maybe you want to color with, some kind of toy to manipulate. Cars are easy, blocks. They have those little like pop-it things nowadays. Fidget spinners, I don't know if those are still a thing, but it's something to keep the kids occupied, something to interest them, and definitely have multiple options, because as we know, younger kids, their focus is just not as long as older kids. So you want to have multiple things for them to choose from. Then you can also have a charged tablet in there. Some of us do not want to use any kind of technology, and that is just fine. And some of us do want to use technology, and that is just fine too. I truly believe there is a time and a place for everything. And these events, for the most part, are geared towards adults. We're going to a place where we want to socialize, where we want to eat, where we want to have a drink, where, we want to visit. And the kids do too, to some extent, I'm sure, but their attention span is much shorter than ours. So you need to be realistic about what your expectations are for being there. Do I want to stay a long time? If so, I need to provide my child with options so that they feel like they're being taken care of too. And we know that sometimes kids they just don't last as long as us, right? So if using a tablet or a phone is an option that you guys would like to do, I do encourage you to bring it at this time. It'll help everybody's anxiety come down a little bit. I do suggest not pulling it out in the beginning though. I suggest kind of holding off and letting that be one of the last resources you use, because it allows them to still engage. If they're playing with a toy, it allows an opportunity for them to invite anybody else over into their space too, if they would like to use that time for that. But again, I would suggest holding off on the electronics till the end if you need that time for that too. Okay, set boundaries. This is really important, and this can be really hard to do. Now, there are boundaries that you're setting with yourself. Before you go to an event, what is that going to look like for you? How long are you going to be there for it? What are you and your partner on the same page? Typically, what are you bringing? What am I bringing? Right. But letting people know like, hey, when I'm there, I do want to spend this much time talking, do you mind watching, like being on the kid front, like in the beginning, and then I'll take them in the evening, or, have that conversation though, to set to let the people know what your expectations are, what is okay and what is not okay. Hey, we both decided it's okay to bring the tablet, right? So let's say that we're only going to take it out after we've hit dessert, or, before this point, I don't know. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. Let's move on to the children. Setting boundaries with your children is important too. Communication is such a crucial tool. And the better we are at it, the more we've practiced and the better the results are. So with your children, you want to outline how long this is going to be. How long are we going to be there? What time are we getting there? What time do we get to leave? Because that's what kids want to know, right? So once they know that, then let them know about the event. Who's going to be there? What to expect. We're going to eat dinner and dessert there. We're going to, maybe it's a brunch and then we have nap time there and then we come home, right? But what you're also going to do is outline what's appropriate and what's not. Maybe we're in a different space and it looks different than our house. I know you love to color, but when we're at, Aunt Sally's house, we can't color because she has white carpets and that's something she has told us we're not allowed to do. So let's find another option to bring. Right? We need to be respectful of somebody else's place, but we can't expect the kids to know what that looks like. So we need to set them up for success and explain what those boundaries are, explain the behaviors that is appropriate in this setting. When we're at a park, it's appropriate to run. Is it appropriate to run inside this house? No. What can we do? We can use slow feet, or we can ask for a break and we can go outside and take a run, right? So when they know what's expected of them, then we acknowledge that they're kids. We know they're going to have big bodies. We know they're going to get overstimulated. We know this is going to happen. So we let them know that. Say, hey, I know sometimes our body gets really big and these events can feel overwhelming. So how about we find a safe space when we get there? So if you feel those feelings, you can just let me know, hey, I'm going to go over to my space for a little bit. And you can do what you need to do. You've given them an option, an outlet for those feelings that are going to come up, right? And that's utilizing clear communication with them. Now, setting boundaries with your family. Being direct and clear with family is super important. And this includes, but is not limited to, food preferences, drinking choices, children's personal space. So for example, for food preferences, people tend to think they have the best intentions with things that they're saying. Oh, you're not going to eat that, or, oh, I don't know. They just make comments that they're inappropriate, even though their intention is not bad. And it is okay to let people know, hey, I would appreciate it if you didn't say any of those things. Another big boundary is with personal space. Now, the holidays are a time when we're seeing family, and often, and this is something I've been guilty of also, I have said, oh, go and give so-and-so a hug. Oh, they would like a hug, goodbye. Oh, they would like a kiss, goodbye. Instead of asking the child, do you want to give them a hug? It is perfectly okay for them not to give a family member a hug or a kiss or any kind of physical contact if they don't want to. That is their personal body. That is their personal space, and they are allowed to voice their own opinions on their body. Now, your role is going to come in with supporting this. If a child says they don't want to, I would step in and maybe correct, I'd say, no, thank you. I don't want a hug right now. But letting the family member know. How often do, you see a family member put on, oh, but I really want one, or, oh, I feel sad. And that's not fair. That is a form of manipulation to get something that they want. And it's not okay. And you can stand up for your child in that moment and say hey, Aunt Sally, Joe doesn't want a hug right now. And they just let you know that. Would you like to do a wave instead? And really just supporting the child. And if they do it again, say, okay, it's we're going to walk away right now because we don't appreciate that interaction. And that's okay. It is okay to set those boundaries, and it can be very uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, your child will know you stood up for them and what feels good for them. And you're helping them learn the tools that they need to be able to stand up for themselves as they get older too. It's such a small moment, but such a profound moment as well. Okay, find a cozy corner. Now, this is important whether you have people coming to your house or whether you're going somewhere else. But finding a cozy corner means finding a good space for your child or you to go when you feel overwhelmed or if you need some time for yourself. It happens. We just need to acknowledge that and we just need to know what to do when it's going to happen. When you're starting to feel that moment, you can go off and take a walk around the neighborhood. Child can't necessarily go take a walk by themselves. So you're going to find a space in the house that's just theirs, where the family isn't gathered. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's behind a chair in a living room, or maybe it's under a table, in a different space, or, kids love stairs, or just something fun. So wherever you are, find that space, and that space signifies a place where they're safe, where they can take a moment, they can feel whatever emotions they're feeling. Remember, all emotions are valid. It is okay to feel stressed. It is okay to feel anxious. It is okay to feel sad or mad or frustrated or super excited, right? But we need to be able to control how we respond. That's where it becomes undesirable, right? It's not the feeling that's undesirable, it's how we respond. So when we set our kids up for success and finding them a safe space where they know they can go feel their feelings and work through things, then we can help them in that process. Now, the backpack is a great tool to use in this space. You can always ask, hey, it looks like you're starting to feel some big emotions. And I like to use the term big emotions because I'm not labeling how they feel when I'm talking to them. I don't want to tell them how they're feeling. I don't want to say like, you're feeling sad, so let's go take some space. I want them to tell me how I'm feeling. If they've already told me that, then I can incorporate that language into our conversation. However, I want to keep it open for them. So I notice you're feeling some big emotions. Would you like to go take your backpack over and hang out behind the chair in your little cozy area for a little bit? And then if you want me to join you, you can let me know, or you can take some space by yourself. What would you like? So having that lets them know it's okay to feel the way they feel. They have a plan and they're going to work on it, and that you're there to support them too. Um, okay, let's exit out of this one. So with that, as I said before, events are happening all throughout the year. We are going and meeting up with friends. Maybe, we were at a brewery last night when we did our Friendsgiving, and there's going to be a lot of things that are out of your control. So when you take the time to control the things you can control, you're able to set yourself up for the best success you can, right? Things are going to happen. Life with kids is completely different than life without kids. I was looking at couples last night without kids and I was like, oh man, that was a nice life too. So it's just different. And you need to remember that. And if it's something where you want to be at an event and you don't want to be focusing on all the externals that are happening with your children, if you don't want to have all these accommodations, then I think it's a good thing to sit down with your partner or if it's just you, with yourself, and say, is this an event I want to bring my kids to? Or should I set them up with a different type of event that's better for them? Like maybe this is a adult only event now, and I need to find a good babysitter or, a member who's going to come hang out with them so that they can play and be in their own space. And I'm not distracted and frustrated and angry because they're not fitting into my little box that I created for this event. So being realistic and being honest with yourself is super important. But the holidays are a time of a lot of fun, of friends, of family, of food. And with that can bring up a lot of different things. So just know if you set yourself up for success, you're able to work through this together and things will happen. It'll be okay. And have an exit plan. If you are bringing your children to an event, like last night, my husband and I had to work through it, and it's like, okay, the kids have hit their tipping point. We've got 5 minutes. Let's wrap it up and let's go. And that's hard. It's hard to do when you see people and you want to socialize and you do this, but know what that is ahead of time so that you're not caught off guard when you're there in the event. So I'm sending everybody lots of love. Happy holidays. If you have any questions, you are always welcome to reach out to me. I love working with people. I love working with families, with kids, with the parents, and I'm here if you need anything. So happy holidays. Enjoy. Set yourself up for success and prevent those meltdowns the best you can.